A commercial plane takes 57 passengers on a short flight, but just a few minutes after takeoff, it suddenly disappears from the radar. For a while, people talk about it, but then, as time passes, they forget about it. But people are truly shocked when, 37 years later, the plane lands at its destination. Actually, I'm talking about America's Flight 914, which is considered the most mysterious incident in aviation history. So, what's the mystery linked to this flight? How did this plane reappear on Earth after being missing for 37 years? And what happened to the passengers on board? Let's find out more about it. On July 2nd, 1955, it was a sunny morning at New York Airport in America, and Pan American World Airways Flight 914 was getting ready to take off. The plane used for this flight was a McDonnell Douglas DC-4, and it was all set to take the passengers to Miami Airport. Right on time, all 57 passengers and 4 crew members boarded the plane, and it took off from the airport. Normally, according to the schedule, this plane should have arrived in Miami at 9:55 a.m. But just a few minutes after takeoff, Flight 914 disappeared from the air traffic control radar. Authorities had no idea how such a large plane could vanish in the sky. Initially, everyone thought that maybe the plane had gone off course, so search operations were launched to find it. However, despite months of searching, not a single piece of the plane was found. After all efforts, authorities finally concluded that the plane might have crashed into the sea. Accepting this, the airplane compensates the families of all the passengers and crew members on board. As time goes by, people slowly forget about this incident. But then, 37 years later, on September 9, 1992, at Simon Bolivar International Airport in Caracas, Venezuela, a blinking dot suddenly appeared on the air traffic control radar screen. At first, the air traffic control believed it might be a normal flight preparing to land at the airport. However, when the plane began to appear and draw closer, the ATC and other airport authorities were completely astonished. They were shocked to see that it was an extremely old McDonnell Douglas DC-4 plane, which had been discontinued decades ago. To the employees, this plane seemed to have come from a different timeline or some other universe. ATC was baffled about how the plane had suddenly appeared on their radar, and they were uncertain about what to do next. In this dilemma, ATC officers established radio contact with the plane, and they could hear the voice of the pilot on board. The pilot asked, "Where are we?" When they received no response from ATC, the pilot went on to tell them, "We are Pan American World Airways Flight 914. We have 57 passengers and 4 crew members on board, and we were supposed to reach Miami from New York." Upon hearing this, the ATC officers were utterly perplexed and distressed. They couldn't understand how this flight could have strayed more than 2,200 kilometers away to a different country. In their state of confusion, the ATC officers asked the plane's crew, "Is your plane in a crash situation? Have you tried to establish contact with anyone else before us?" Even though they received no answers to their questions, the ATC, considering the presence of passengers on the plane, cleared the runway for landing. A few minutes later, the wheels of the DC Douglas DC-4 plane gently touched the runway. Without any trouble, the plane landed at Caracas Airport. But what happens after the plane lands leaves everyone stunned. Actually, after the plane comes to a stop, the pilot reconnects with ATC and says to them, We were supposed to arrive in Miami at 9:55 a.m. on the morning of July 2nd, 1955. After hearing this, the ATC officer is left in shock and responds, "You have landed at Simon Bolivar International Airport in Caracas, Venezuela, and today is September 9th, 1992. Upon hearing this response, the pilot becomes bewildered and distressed. He can't fathom how 37 years could have passed so inexplicably. Seeing the pilot in a state of panic, the ATC officer begins to suspect that something major is amiss and that there might be a deep conspiracy behind it. With this thought in mind, they promptly dispatched security personnel to the plane and requested the pilot to disembark and surrender. However, before the security guards could reach them, the pilot said, "Don't try to come near us. We're leaving from here." Upon saying this, the plane's engine starts up again. And once again, Flight 914 takes off into the sky and disappears from the radar. The ATC officer later explains that for a few moments after takeoff, the plane was visible, but then it vanished from both sight and radar. Given the matter of national security, 3 jet planes are dispatched to search for Flight 914. However, even after searching for hours, there is no trace of the old plane in the sky. It's as if the sky has swallowed this airplane. Frustrated, all the jet planes return. However, a few hours after departing from Caracas, Flight 914 mysteriously lands at its intended destination, Miami Airport. Just like at Caracas Airport, the authorities and airline officials at Miami are completely astonished when they see this plane. Seeing such an old plane land like a routine flight, they can't believe their eyes. Well, after the plane safely lands, the investigation into this case begins. During the investigation, it was found that this was the same McDonnell Douglas DC-4 plane that had taken off from New York to Miami on July 2nd, 1955. The investigators question the plane's crew and passengers extensively, but they don't receive any answers that can unravel the mystery of their return after 37 years. Eventually, since there is no evidence or complaints against these people, they are set free to reunite with their families. However, when these people return home, the most bizarre and astonishing thing about this entire incident becomes apparent. In fact, all the people on board the plane were exactly in the same condition as they were on July 2nd, 1955, during the initial flight. Their clothes hadn't changed, they weren't dirty, and their ages hadn't advanced at all. While all their family members had aged 37 years, these passengers appeared as if they were about to participate in a fancy dress competition in their old-fashioned clothes, because the fashion of 1955 had completely evolved by 1992. The people on board the plane found it hard to believe that they had returned after 37 years. It felt as though they had only chosen a journey of a few hours. How did this airplane continue to operate for 37 years without interruption? Where had it disappeared to? And why didn't the ages of the people on the plane increase? There were many questions, but no one had the answers. Their family members were happy to have them back, but they were even more surprised because, in many families, the ages of parents and children had become equal. Extensive investigations were conducted into this incident, but to this day, the real cause of it remains unknown. No one knows exactly what happened with Flight 914. Some people speculate that time travel might be responsible for this mysterious incident. They suggest that this plane somehow engaged in time travel, which is why the age of anyone on board didn't increase. At the same time, some people connect it to the Bermuda Triangle. They believe that this plane might have gone missing in the Bermuda Triangle because such disappearance events have happened there before. Meanwhile, some people also suggest that Flight 914 might have accidentally disappeared into another timeline or a different dimension. Not only that, but many people don't believe this incident at all. They say that Flight 914 is a work of fiction, a made-up story with no connection to reality. Although when this incident occurred, some newspapers had published about it, today you can't find any reference to this event in any newspaper. One conspiracy theory suggests that the government intentionally covered up all the evidence related to this incident because they wanted to hide something from the people. And thus, this incident became a mystery forever buried in the pages of history. What's your take on Flight 914? Do you think it's a real incident or not? If it is real, what could be the secret behind the disappearance of this plane? Feel free to comment and share your opinion. The rest of today's video ends here. If you enjoyed the video, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. We'll see you soon with another interesting aviation story. Until then, goodbye.